Hello and welcome into another edition of Reality Check over here on Talking Jets. I am Matt O'Leary, joined as always by Jeremy Jets Chaos. Jeremy, you're coming in clear as day. I hope I didn't just jinx you, but we got you coming through loud and clear, it looks like.
New computer, much more advanced Wi-Fi card, new location of my studio. Now I'm above the Wi-Fi downstairs instead of the opposite of the house. I think I've made a couple of upgrades.
I absolutely love it. We get to look at that beautiful bald head of yours in crystal HD 1080p. Things we just absolutely love to see. So again, it's transitioning from the preseason to the regular season now. Still waiting on Haason Reddick. And I think that's where we're going to start. So this is going to be a very heavy roster-focused episode because on Tuesday was cut down day. There was some moves made. It looked like 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢 was coming in here, and then he leaves and goes to Buffalo instead. That was weird. I don't know, but most importantly, we have some insight from Joe Douglas, who spoke today about Haason Reddick, and I want to pull up some of the quotes, start there, and then talk about what would happen with the roster after. So let's start with this one from Connor Hughes. Joe Douglas said the communication between the Jets and Haason Reddick and his reputation has been clear and direct. The ball is in their court. And then follows it up. The next one is Joe Douglas said that there has not been a recent conversation with Haason Reddick's representation. Obviously not a great sign for week one. So the stalemate continues, Jeremy, with Haason Reddick. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what we knew. I mean, I'm glad that we were right about that. I mean, I think we both talked about our belief that we weren't talking to them. We're waiting for them to come into camp. That's been the message. And I'm glad that they're not backing down on that position. The position was come to camp and we'll negotiate a contract. And I'm glad that they're not backing down from that. It's not a surprise. I think JD is one thing we know about him, like him or love him, is he stands his ground. He doesn't act on emotion. And they have been very clear about it. It's like it's not even new information to me. It's like I was very aware that we weren't going to speak or negotiate with him until he comes to camp.
Yeah, exactly. And he reiterates that Reddick, or he being Joe Douglas, reiterated today that Reddick's got to be in the building to talk contract. They're playing a game of chicken, and a part of me wishes, and I'm not passing all the blame on Joe Douglas here. I'm really not. A part of me wishes that the Jets weren't as firm and were willing to discuss, and I'm not saying fold and give him a 4-year deal, anything like that. But at the same time, looking at this, Reddick has to be getting some of the worst advice that we've seen in a long, long time from his agent. It's unbelievable, Jeremy. He's lost almost $5 million.
And he's not getting it back. Like, I think it's only 2 of it is definite. Like, I think the other types of fines for not being there, I think the Jets could forgive if they reach a deal. But there's $2 million or $2.1 million that is absolutely off the table. Like, NFL rules, mandatory, has to be paid. And I don't think JD is going to consider that in whatever they work out. I don't think he is, because that's not his problem.
Yeah. I'm right there with you on it. It's a very strange situation, a very long holdout. We thought the Revis one was bad 14 years ago. This is now past that. Reddick is in danger of not playing in week one. Revis was back and did play in week one in the 2010 season. But it's getting late early, as Yogi Berra would say. It's getting late in order for him to come back and play in week one. Honestly, I think at this point, Jeremy, I'd be surprised if Reddick played in week one. Is that where you're at with this? Or do you think he comes back and is good to go?
I think my deadline was like coming to practice on Monday, and there's a chance that he plays because it's a rotation. Maybe they're obviously not. I don't think if he came back by Monday, it would be what we would see week 8. Yeah. But I think it would be kind of like how we used McDonald sometimes last year. I think sometimes on 3rd and long, you'd see him come in as a pass rush specialist. Maybe he wouldn't really play the same role week 1. But I think if it goes beyond Monday, I don't care if he's in great shape. I just don't see how it's going to be possible because there's a difference between football shape and being in shape.
Yeah, there is a huge difference, and it's going to take a little bit for him to get up to speed. If he was to come in and play, same thing with on their side, the 49ers side with Trent Williams or Brandon Ayuk. There's questions of how much they're going to be utilized because of how much time they missed. He could do all the drills. He could post all the videos from, Temple working out with his coach and say that he's ready to go. But you got to get hit a little bit. You kind of got to go through the motions of like a football practice. So I'm with you on that. Like if he was to come back, let's say best case scenario, Monday, Labor Day, he comes back. That'd be ironic coming back on Labor Day. The guy just held out for 2 months, but he's going to come back to work on Labor Day. And then a week before the game, he has like 4 practices with the team. And then it's like, okay, you're going to go out there and play 55% of snaps. I would be shocked by that. But could he give you, I don't know, 10 really good reps in a game that you need him? Like, that's almost what I'd be using him for if he is available in week 1. It would be, hey, if the Jets are up 20-17 in the 4th quarter and it's 3rd and 8, like maybe figure out a way to get Reddick on the field and be like, just go, man, pin your ears back and do whatever you can.
And it would have to be earned, by the way, in those 4 practices. Like if he looks sluggish and rusty and is not as in good shape as we thought, Salah might say, no way. I got guys here that have been working an entire camp. And, at the professional level, if you're a little off, if you're out of shape, if you're not ready, the difference in talent will put you below rookies who are undrafted. It really will. You see that in every sport. When a guy's not ready, he's not ready. And he's not going to be anywhere near the level. You need to, he needs to be ready. So I think even him coming in at that point, he has to earn it. Like they're going to look and see if he's ready. And if he doesn't look good, he's not going to play.
Yeah, I'm with you. Roger F is hanging with us. Want to get into the chat a little bit. Says glad to be here with you both, Matt and Jerry. Matt and Jeremy, my favorite Jet podcasters. How about that? Some positivity from our guy Roger. I love it. Thank you so much for your support, hanging out with us. Dano was tossing the chicken in there, choking the chicken maybe. Peter S. He's always around with us. Peter from the beautiful Hudson Valley.
Nice.
Wild Wave. I love this one. Reddick's agent is a dumbass and smart at the same time. I think I'm leaning more on dumbass. I don't see the smart side of this. Do you, Jeremy?
I mean, it's certainly not good advice to your client. So maybe the agent doesn't care because the agent doesn't lose because the agent doesn't pay the fine. So the agent at the end of the day is going to get whatever if he gets a new contract. I mean, this is the same agent that signed that giant deal, I believe, with CeeDee Lamb. So the agent's getting paid. This is a person who makes a lot of money, but it's definitely not good advice. There's no, if that's the advice the agent is giving, for all we know, the agent is begging him to go to camp and play. We don't know. Yeah,
we do have no idea. That's a good point. Maybe it is Reddick who's holding firm and he's like, no, I'm not showing up. And the agent is like, no, it's probably in your best interest to get there. We have no idea. We really don't. So maybe it's unfair for us to come out and say that. But so at some point, I think we could both agree that Reddick is not going to hold out the whole year and is going to come back at some point, right?
The fact that holding out the year just resets it and you're in the same exact situation next year, it's almost impossible to believe that he would sit out the year because we would literally be having this same conversation next year because I don't see why we would release him. Like if a year goes by and we still have him at $15 million in an incentive packed kind of deal, and he has to still honor that 1 year of the contract, we wouldn't give him away for free. Maybe we'd be more likely to trade him. I don't know, but we're certainly his situation doesn't improve. His situation, except he's a year older, a year removed from playing. Bad perception from some of the teams are going to look at that very negatively. And now what is he looking at? He's certainly, if we're offering him 22, 23 million, like we've talked about, if that's what we're offering him, now he's looking at another team may be saying, yeah, we'll guarantee you 15 million, if that. I mean, it's a big deal to lose a year, to miss a year,
especially at this age. So what I wanted to do is take a look at the depth chart right now for the New York Jets, carrying a lot of defensive linemen. So if you include Haason Reddick in this, it's at 11. Johnson, McDonald, McKinley, Watts, Williams, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, Leonard Taylor, Haason Reddick, Michael Clemens, and Braden McGregor, all defensive linemen. Right now, there is no Haason Reddick, so it's just 10 guys. First, I want to get from you, because I haven't heard your reaction to it yet. Your thoughts on the 3 UDFAs making the roster, and then what happens here with this defensive line room when Haason Reddick is ready to come back?
Well, I kind of feel like the ability to use the injuries, right, kind of took away all the answers, and until they acquired Bates and Brownlee went, so we found out who was on the bubble on the offensive side. But it's kind of like, and I did a video on this, that they were spared the tough decisions because of the guys on the IR. They were able to hold on to all 3. But the real question is, we were all doing our 53-man projections with Reddick on the roster. So the real question is, what happens when Reddick is there? What happens when Bernard Converse is not injured and those guys are back on the 53? Then we get to see the decisions we thought we were going to have to make the other day on Tuesday, because we haven't had a gun held to our head to make those choices. I think if Reddick comes back, you're going to see, my guess would be, Watts, be released and hopefully, obviously, make it to whatever it is, the 24 hours to, make it onto the practice squad.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big factor, right? When Reddick comes back, what happens with these guys was really, I hate that our lads is throwing me off. It keeps jumping down to the advertisement when I'm just trying to look at this defensive line, our beautiful defensive line over here. What the hell? With Reddick returning, because eventually it feels like he will, one of those 3 guys, to me, it feels like the odd man out. They could theoretically move another spot, like maybe Chaz Surratt at linebacker. They're going to keep 5 linebackers.
Yeah, he's on my bubble too, but
yeah,
I have him for Converse.
Okay, that's fair. But I think with Surratt, they like him for his special teams, and the defensive linemen don't have that same special teams ability. So it feels like to me, and you tell me, if this feels off base to you, or if you would go a different direction. I like Eric Watts, but I think Watts is the guy that I have circled for when Reddick returns, that they could try to sneak to the practice squad. And I will say, after the roster settle in, and like, let's say Reddick does miss week 1 and Eric Watts is still on the 53, once you get into the season and the rosters are set, I feel like it's not as common to see the guys get claimed. So I think you have a better chance to sneak someone on the practice squad in season than like right now, still a week before the year starts.
Yeah, and knock on wood that there's not any major injuries. Typically, like, throughout the season, you're going to have some guys banged up and, injured. So, so there's going to be a mix of that too, that sometimes you could actually juggle 55, 56 guys and survive that way, because there's always a couple of guys injured, so we just have to see how that all plays out. Because then there's the question of UDFA. So, I mean, it's hard to, we literally let, endangered and put Brownlee out there on the market. I don't know. I would imagine he's going to be on the practice squad if he's not claimed, but it's, like, now are we simply just, when UDFA comes back, gonna get rid of Bates? Or there was a lot of interest in him. I don't know if he's going to make it to the practice squad. So, I mean, it's going to be, this is not over. The roster questions are going to continue probably for the next couple of weeks.
And Leaky Fotu also, we haven't mentioned him on that's another defensive lineman right there as well. So then what happens when Fotu comes back? Robert Saleh said today that week 3 or week 4 is the target there for Fotu. So you got 2 defensive linemen in Reddick and Fotu, and then also Kenny Yeboah, and what happens with Bates. Bates had a great preseason. I think we got to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do in Chicago. So I don't know how much of a guarantee it is that Yeboah just comes back and get his job, but I guess we'll see. in a few
I know
weeks.
we got Joe Blewett comparing Bates and saying he's better than Brock Bowers. So I mean, did you see that? I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if he was just being sarcastic, but I saw Blewett comparing him to Brock Bowers and I laughed.
That's so great. Jake Asman's hanging with us. What's going on, Jake? He says this show is unlike any other show. Two greats. Things you just absolutely love to see. Jake, big fan as always. It was fun hanging out and chopping it up with him the other day.
Can you just clip this moment and just like, run it as a little small, short for a while?
Yeah, that'll be our intro. It'll be the compliment from our guy, Jake Asman here.
Jake Asman endorsed.
So also, by the way, I believe, I don't want to put him on the spot, but this is from Green Bean. So this is not coming from my mouth. So if I'm wrong about this, blame Green Bean, not me. I believe Jake Asman will be in attendance at the Cyclone the day before Jets Broncos.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to be there for that too. So, and you're going to be there, right?
I will be there. I believe Richie was invited as well. So Long Island Jet guys, City Jet guys will be there. Jeremy's going to eat his body weight in pizza. It's going to be,
you know what? I mean, I'm not going to eat until I have to be very careful until that's officially done, because last year, 2 years ago, I barely fit on that. Like the thing that I guess holds you in the bar.
Yeah,
I almost had to be with Harry and get off. So I've gained a lot of weight since then, but I've been dieting. So it's going to be close. So I might not be able to eat until after the Cyclone, with my diet up until that point of my trip.
It's going to be like the kids when you played football and had to weigh in before the games and they'd like starve themselves and then eat a bagel before kickoff.
There'd be nothing more embarrassing than to get off that roller coaster. Can you imagine what Green Bean would do to me? Green Bean would never let me live that day.
I don't think you can go back on the game streams or on the Thursday thing. None of it. You just, that's it. Like you just walk off, go back to California. Forget the game. Just go back to Cali after that.
Yeah. True.
Blitz Crew's a member. He says, until Fotu is back, LT3 is safe. With Brownlee cut, betting Watts will be gone when Reddick is back. Any safeties out there you like? So, Jeremy, I'll toss this one to you first. Thoughts on really all of Blitz Crew's points here?
I mean, with Fotu coming back, I agree. Leonard Taylor's definitely safe. It's a question of when Fotu does come back. I don't want Leonard Taylor exposed. I think that if he gets his off-field problems from college out of the way, this was his third-round pick, maybe second round. Like, this is a real talent, and he's showing it, right? We're seeing the way he's playing and standing out. He could be a special player. I really I don't want to expose Leonard Taylor, so I just don't know what they're going to do. I can't really, but I agree that LT3 is not safe when Fotu comes back. I think there's about 5 or 6 guys that are not safe, and they're going to have to figure it out. And then I think Watts is definitely the one I think we all agree is the one that's gone first.
Yep.
And then as far as safeties, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Lewis Cine because I read a lot about how bad he looked in Minnesota.
He was hurt a lot too.
For a second, I was like accepting of it. Oh, what the hell? Maybe he had a good preseason, but then he decided to go to Buffalo. I'm not terribly concerned. I think we have 3 good safeties that I like, and I feel very comfortable with. As far as a 4th guy, I'm not thrilled with Key, the Mr. Irrelevant on the practice squad, as being a guy, if there were injuries, knock on wood, that would have to come in. So I do think, I don't think it would be Key. I think if a safety went down, we'd be picking somebody up off the garbage heap, and hopefully, I don't know if Key would be even ready.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, there's Tony Adams and Chuck Clark are the starters. Then you have Ashton Davis, and don't forget about Isaiah Oliver as well.
Yeah, Oliver,
but he's really more of a special teamer.
Right.
I wonder. So, Jarek Bernard Converse played some safety last year before he got hurt, and they obviously moved him back to corner. I think he's done a good job at corner. Maybe they don't want to mess with him, but in a pinch, maybe they move him back to safety if push came to shove there.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even you see, and JG loves that versatility, and so does Salah. You could. It depends on the play, right? I mean, because it's not like and I'm not saying we could do it as a permanent thing, but there are plays where Michael Carter III is doing what a safety does.
True.
Right. He's cut, whatever. So there might be a little mix of just Eccles and Carter being on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
And on some situations, and then then if you have to rely on a guy like Oliver or 𝐒𝐿𝐭𝐭, maybe you're not relying on the, maybe it's like minimal reps. I don't know.
It's possible. Simple Eats wants to know, maybe you guys already answered this, but who do you think starts next to Q on the inside for early downs the first few weeks without Fotu? So for me, and I know really this guy's strength, who I'm about to say, is more of a pass rusher, but I think they really like 𝐒𝐿𝐭𝐭, and I think he's going to play a lot next to Quinnen Williams, even on early downs. Like, again, I know that he's really more of a pass rusher. He's not great against the run, but I think he's going to have some significant playing time, because you look at the other guys, like Solomon Thomas isn't going to play nearly as much percentage of snap wise as 𝐒𝐿𝐭𝐭, and Leonard Taylor. I like him, and I think good developmental guy. Both 𝐒𝐿𝐭𝐭 and Thomas are only on 1-year deals, so maybe down the line, Leonard Taylor, someone who could maybe next year start for you, best case scenario. But for this year, I would think, even with Fotu out, I think 𝐒𝐿𝐭𝐭 is going to play a really big percentage of snaps.
Yeah, I agree. I think Solly Thomas is more the backup for for Quinnen. Like when Quinnen's not in, that's when you see Solly Thomas. Like, possibly, I don't know who else it would be that would, like, for the few reps that Williams rests or sits, who plays that side. I think it's Solomon Thomas. I could be wrong about that, but 𝐒𝐿𝐭 is my pick for sure. I mean, that's who I think is right now. I think 𝐒𝐿𝐭 is the primary guy next to Q, and I actually think that he's being very overlooked. I think that 𝐒𝐿𝐭 might be much, much better than anybody thinks. I think that he's about to have a breakout year and make a name for himself. And he's looked great in camp. He's showing all evidence of it.
Yeah, he's put on the weight, and I think that's really helped him, because he was someone who was a little bit smaller coming out of college, would get pushed around a little bit too much. But if he puts on the weight, I think that's a really good sign for the Jets. Let's go to Jake, actually, who's back, says 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. I'm going on with Green Bean. So we'll see him on the Thursday thick of it, and he will be at the Cyclone Day too. So we do get the confirmation. Jake Asman's riding the Cyclone. We'll put him right in between Jeremy and Nick Shine. How about that?
well, Asman could offset me, right? You got this big guy, last 2 years ago, I went with Nick's son, Nick Jr.
Okay.
Shine Jr. So I need a small guy next to me, because I take up like 70% of the roller coaster car. So it'd be perfect just to have Jake snuggled in there,
Just absolutely incredible. Now, if you've been following along with Dano points this out, and I do have to take a tangent here because it's a compliment to me, so I am going to bring it up. Dano said Matt's barber is A1. So I've moved. I got a haircut yesterday. It's been a month since the move. So I've been in the process of trying to find a new barber, because that's obviously something that you got to do. And the first place I went to, I liked it. It was around the block. It was a Dominican barber shop. I never got my hair cut at like a Dominican place like that before. I thought they did good, but I was like, you know what? Let me test the waters, see if I like anything else. So for the second place, I went more into the downtown area, because across the street from my favorite coffee shop, there's a barber shop. So let me try that place out. I thought she did a good job. Then there's the added bonus on top of that too, that's across the street from my favorite coffee place. So I could do the haircut and then get a little treat across the street before I go back home and go back to work. So I think this one's the front runner to remain the same. But Jeremy, I'm gonna ask you, what's your take on the haircut? Should I stick with this second place, or do I got to test out a third spot?
You picked the right guy to ask.
Yeah, right.
The barbers are very important to me. I never, even when I had hair, really, I went to Astor Place in New York City in the Village.
Okay.
And my friends, when I was 15, they found a guy, right, that we would all wait for. He'd do all 5 of us. We'd stand there with him. And he eventually opened up his own shop, but he was like a known guy. And it was stupid because I didn't get lines or anything fancy or anything like that. But you had to use this guy. I would say people like the way your hair looks. She did a good job. It's next to your coffee shop. Why not just stick?
All right, I'm sticking with it. Made my decision. Look at this. The return of Allen. He says JD was an embarrassment today. Sounds like a guy who truly believes that his job isn't on the line. Trade happened 5 months ago. Roseman played his buddy like a fool. Jeremy, I know Joe Douglas is your guy. So I'm going to let you go. What do you think of Allen's comment here?
Well, this is Alon just doubling down on his stupidity against JD. I mean, this guy never lets up and never relents in his dumbness. We honestly have the best roster that I think. I'm not saying it's hands down. You can obviously compare it to the 2010 and the 98 roster. But the point is, even if you don't agree it's the best roster we've ever put on the field, it's a top 5 or top 4 roster we've ever put on the field. I think it's the best roster we've ever put on the field. And that's the responsibility of one person. One person's in charge of that, who managed that. And in 4 years, we went from the worst, an expansion team like roster, all the way to the top roster we've ever put on the field. Again, his stupid statistic that he puts up there again, that's so dumb, because when JD took over the team, what did he do? He stripped down our roster on purpose. And we knew that was going to be tons of losses, tons of losing. One bad mistake was Zach Wilson, but it's a mistake that almost every other GM would have made in the same situation. And other than that, we are now going to this year with the best roster we've ever had. And yeah, he took a shot, and I don't think he made a fool of himself at all today. I think that what he did today was say it was we risked up a third round pick for a guy who moves the needle, like a very solid, real player. Maybe not the top tier, but tier 2 defensive, edge. And it was worth a shot, and he's probably going to end up playing, and it's going to end up making JD look very good in the end, because I doubt that Reddick sits out the entire year. But to sit there and still be in the I don't like JD camp, that's just stupid.
It keeps going. I can't wait for year 10 of JD with no playoffs, and Jeremy will want an 11th season because of 4 picks in 2020.
That's the thing about Alon. He wants the Jets to lose to be right. And that's the difference between him and normal Jet fans. Normal Jet fans want to win and then say, oh, I was wrong about my general manager. I was wrong about my coach. But not Alon. Alon is, I wouldn't even be surprised if he's a New England Patriot troll. And that he's just doing all of this as a troll. But he's not, in my mind, he's not even a Jet fan.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know for certain, but I think he has a Joe Alt Chargers jersey, because that was Allen's guy. He wanted Joe Alt. Was mad that the Jets won 2 games at the end of the year, and then fell out of the Joe Alt run.
He probably does. He doesn't know how to be a Jet fan. And it's funny. It's funny because it's going to ruin his year, because when we're 10-3 and everybody's happy, he's going to have to hide and feel like an idiot because he said the opposite.
I don't agree with that. I wish, but it's going to be wait till the shoe drops. So the Jets would have to win the Super Bowl, because if they don't, then any Jets hater can go, see, told you.
That's what he'll do. We'll go to the freaking Super Bowl and lose, and he'll say, see, fire JD.
Right. Well, also, I think maybe I'm closer. I'm definitely closer to you than I am with Allen on my Joe Douglas take. Allen is as far anti-Douglas as you can get. You are much more pro Joe Douglas. I think he is a pretty good GM who has made some questionable decisions with this team, but I would say it's mostly good. There's been some questionable things. This is the year, though. I think, and I know that you agree with this. I don't.
They have to win this year.
They have to. There's no excuses. If the bottom falls out, no matter what happens, if they go 7-10 for the 3rd year in a row, then I'm sorry. Then Joe Douglas, forget the 22 class. Douglas, Salah, they got to go start over. But again, like I want to see it. And same for Salah too. I know Salah gets a lot of hate from this fan base. He hasn't been perfect. He needs to improve in-game management. But can we just wait and see what this guy looks like with not the 35th best quarterback in the NFL before we make any decisions one way or the other if he's the guy or not? Same for Douglas.
Yeah, and He's definitely made mistakes. There's things he does right now that I question. But at the end of the day, I look at one thing. When he traded that Jamal Adams, that was the start of a new era. That was like the start of Joe Douglas, in my opinion. That's where that was him establishing, I'm the GM of this team. Trades Jamal Adams. That's the start of the rebuild. That was the obvious, we're not going to win today. We're not going to win tomorrow. Rebuild. And if you look at the roster from 2020, and now here we are in 2024, and it would have been last year, we would have been in the playoffs. Everybody knows it. If Rodgers doesn't go down, if we don't get, our offensive line is not completely decimated, we're a playoff team last year. We really are. But that's neither here nor there. It's 4 years later. It's 2024. And we have what I believe is the best roster in the NFL. And the best that we've ever had. In my lifetime, in 43 years, I have never seen a Jets team with this much talent, with this many stars, with this much depth. It's the best team I've ever seen us put on the field. And I have to attribute that to Joe Douglas. And credit to the staff for development and all that. Sure. And it's the same argument for Saleh. It's like he hasn't had a quarterback yet, but he did manage to build us the best defense in the NFL.
My take, the last thing I'm going to say on this is just my take is I just want to see it play out. I don't want to say definitively one way or the other. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are or are not the guy until we see how it goes this year. Last year, we were supposed to get a real look. That's gone in 4 plays. Stinks, whatever. Joe Douglas, I thought, being critical of him, I thought he should have been more aggressive to get a better backup quarterback in there, and then kind of sat on his hands and didn't do anything as the season went down the drains with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, the whole thing. I was very critical of him for that. But let's see how this year plays out. If they go 12-5 and win the division and win a couple playoff games, I think that should ease a lot of people's tensions, but I guess we'll never know.
I mean, I don't know how it wouldn't. It's like if we go to the AFC Championship game and win 12 or more games this year, then I think it's got to stop. I mean, we don't have to build him a statue and extend him 10 years, but I think the questioning him and saying he needs to go or he's on the hot seat has got to stop. But I agree, he has to win this year. And I don't care if there's 30 injuries. It doesn't matter. At this point, then it's just your dark cloud that follows you or something. Yeah. And maybe you need to be somewhere else. But I agree, they have to win this year. There's no more excuses. It's a must year for both of them. Otherwise, we clean house, take the best part of our roster and build around that.
Wild Wave's not happy. He says, Alan, we exile you from this fan base. Be gone.
It took so long for Jake Asman to shake him loose off of his channel, and now he found us here.
Well, that's quite okay. It's all right. It riled us up a little bit. I love when Jeremy rants. So I might. Who knows? Maybe I took over Alan's account and I put that in the chat just to rile up Jeremy to get some content on a Thursday afternoon. Did we ever think of that?
It's very possible. I can see Green Bean doing that.
Yeah, it's Bean. I mean, Bean's leaving his job. He's got all the time in the world right now.
Let me mess with chaos, man.
Hey, man, let me tell you.
Let me tell you, man. Chaos got no control.
No control. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. So let's get back to some of this roster stuff on this one. We talked about it briefly, but Jason Brownlee originally makes the Jets roster, and then now he doesn't make it as Brendan Bates comes in because they needed a third tight end. What do you think happens with Jason Brownlee? Did the New York Jets make a massive mistake?
I mean, look, hopefully he makes it to the practice squad. I didn't, and I said it, and I said this to you. I predicted it in the sense that I predicted that he was in more danger than Irv Charles, but I didn't say I agreed with it.
Yes.
But I think that they really think that this new kickoff rule, I'm just in general, since Saleh has been here, I think they really, really value special teams. I think that a lot of guys make the roster specifically because of special teams. If you watch episode 3 of One Jets Drive, it's the first 10 minutes of them talking about that. about how much they think about special teams. And that was why I thought Irv Charles was safe, because I think that they see him as the future gunner. I think that I think they see him. I think they see Charles and Oliver as their two top guys, on coverage. And that's why I think like Surratt, when you talk about Surratt, he's good on special teams. Yeboah, he's good on special teams. So many guys. It's like at this point, I think there's two guys right now on the roster that don't belong on the roster based on their ability to play the position. And that's Irv Charles and that's Oliver. Neither of them are good enough at their position. They're on this roster because of the way they play special teams. I don't think we can go beyond that, though. I think every other roster decision now, you can't sit there and take guys that can't play their position and say, well, it's because they're good on special teams. I think 2 is the max.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. So the Jets' 6 wide receivers that they have, including Irv Charles, is Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Gibson, Alan Lazard, Irv Charles, and Malachi Corley. Really, it's like 5 because Irv Charles gives you nothing. He's just, that's the position that he's listed as, but he's not a wide receiver. He's a special teamer. The reason why and not saying I disagree with your take that the Jets were going to keep Irv Charles. The reason why I think that it's maybe not as necessary as the Jets think is because I actually liked Brandon Echols and Quantez Stiggers in that role this preseason. I think both of those guys have done well and performed well. And I thought last year when Justin Hardy was down with injury and Irv Charles did take over the gunner role, I thought the Jets' punt coverage got significantly worse last year. He did have the fumble recovery against Denver, and that stands out. But after that, like the game we were at against the Chargers, Justin Hardy was out that game, punt return for a touchdown against. And there was just other examples throughout the year where I didn't think they were as strong on special teams without Hardy. The thought now that I have is I'm almost surprised that Irv Charles is still here. And the reason being is Justin Hardy didn't make the Browns. So my thought was, why not bring back Justin Hardy and waive Irv Charles? Because I think we can agree that Hardy is a better gunner than Irv Charles is.
Yeah, I think he might be. I'm shocked that he didn't make the Browns. I guess they don't value special teams as much, I guess, because I think he's the best gunner in the NFL.
Right. That was my thought on it too. So I was like, do they think like the injury really affected him? Do they just want to go? It's not like he would cost you a whole lot of money at this point either.
I would rather have Hardy and Oliver on the team and then keep Brownlee as your number 6 or whatever, and then and Irv Charles goes without question. Yeah.
So that's what I thought was strange with how that ended up playing out, because he is available. Anyone can pick him up. We saw the Jets had a great special teams unit last year and the last couple of years with Justin Hardy here. So I'm surprised we haven't seen that happen, but Brant Boyer is very good at his job. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. He's lasted through many different regime changes over the years. And this is really nitpicky. Like I'm fully admitting that this is very, very nitpicky. I don't love carrying Irv Charles, but again, just because he doesn't really offer you anything else besides special teams. And I think there are even better options to play that role on this roster than him.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I agreed with it. I just think that I just sensed from what they talk about that they think very highly of him, that they really like him. It's great that we're nitpicking this, by the way, because most of the years, right, in the last 12 years, 13 years, the things we're talking about this part of the season when it comes to roster are a lot more serious and a lot more like upsetting than which guy should be the 53 guy because they're better on special teams. Like that's a nice place to be when that's your biggest concern or your biggest worry. That's why I tell people to calm down over Brownlee, because although I like him too, I mean, he's not a world beater.
No.
This is a guy fighting maybe to be a guy that's a WR4 that hangs around on a team on a roster. mean, he's not gonna magically develop into a WR1 or 2.
No, he's not. And I like Jason Brownlee, so I'm not saying that like I flipped my desk over and stormed out, but I was a little bummed. I understand it was logical to move one of the between Irv Charles or Jason Brownlee for when you brought in the third tight end. And you knew they weren't going into this game against San Francisco with only 2 tight ends on the roster. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So we knew a move was coming. I thought maybe, best case for Jason Brownlee, maybe he's an Allen Lazard replacement after the year, big body receiver who can block, who's like your 4th receiver. Again, that's best case. But unlike Irv Charles, who we were saying Irv makes the team because of specials, Jason Brownlee doesn't play special teams. So if you're going to be the 6th receiver, you also got to give something else too. And that's part of the problem with Brownlee is he wasn't able to do that on specials.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, his Achilles heel. But he, hopefully he sticks to the practice squad, because I do think that he could be a guy. I agree 100%. It would be nice if he stuck around, because we don't want to pay Lazard next year unless he blows us away. Like, we're going to get out of that contract, right? So, and if he doesn't blow us away, it's a lot cheaper to let him go and have a guy like Brownlee if Brownlee could make up the same production.
I think so. I was just mad at Green Bean in the chat, in the Talking Jets chat, throwing my guy Brownlee under the bus, talking his smack. God forbid you brought up anything about Kenny Yeboah or Michael Clemens or Denzel Mims, but try to support Jason Brownlee, get thrown right under the bus. How is that fair, Jeremy?
I mean, again, it's not, at least when we're having these arguments, we're talking about backups. We're talking about tight end 3. We're talking about quarterback 5 or wide receiver 6. Yeah, I think that, at the end of the day, I have to trust the coaching staff, because they see a lot more of these guys and they know a lot more what goes on in the locker room. And I think that there's other factors in how they make all these decisions, so.
Our guy Dom C's hanging with us, says, how about the notion that Shamar Bartholomew received the most waiver claims? Who would have thunk? Yeah, that's a really good point. Ends up in Carolina after all said and done. I would not have guessed that of the players that the Jets waived, that Bartholomew would be the one who would get the most claims.
Yeah, remember, we got to hold on to our biggest names because of the injury list thing. But still, yeah, that's not the guy I would have guessed. I thought it would have been, and he was signed right away. What was, Codrington, or what, the Bills got him.
Well, yeah, they traded. Yeah, they
right.
traded.
Well, that was the trade. So I think he would have been.
Sure.
He would have been the most highly claimed or whatever. Possibly. It depends on needs, right? Because that was just if you happen to need a returner. Like if you didn't need a returner, I don't, position-wise, maybe only the teams that may have been looking at a returner would have claimed him. So maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, it's a surprise, because I don't remember anybody making any argument that he should make our roster.
No, I don't remember where the Jets got him from even. Couldn't tell you. Off the top of my head, don't remember. But he was a camp body. Really didn't unfortunately, not trying to be harsh, but he didn't really have a chance to make this roster. It just, there's too many people in front of him, and he's going to get a job somewhere.
Great name for a rich person's dog, Bartholomew.
It is. It's almost like a butler's name too.
Yeah, exactly. Our dog Bartholomew will be coming up out of his private little mansion on the side of the house.
I wanted to bring up Oregon Jets message. He says Yeboah is a jag. Yeah, please go on Green Bean's show tonight and spam the comments with that. That's really gonna get him, because I in the chat said that Michael Clemens is a jag, and he was like, "Yeah, Irish prick you." He threw me right under the bus. So he did not like that.
I don't like that either when you put down Michael Clemens. But I'll tell you this. I'm not saying Michael Clemens is a star or a world beater. I'm just saying I think he's a solid, inexpensive, brings some physicality, and has some moments where he sparks, and he versatile because he plays special teams kind of player.
No, that is totally fair. The only reason why I did it is because the fight we got in. It all stems back to the John Franklin Myers, Michael Clemens fight from a few weeks ago.
Never ends.
No, it never ends. It's going to be going on forever. Green Bean.
I mean, Green Bean's still fighting and getting upset with people that insult Mims. If you tell
it was the damn salmon, Jeremy. If he doesn't eat that one piece of salmon, this whole thing, it's a domino effect. He has the salmon, he gets sick, and he never recovers.
That's right. Otherwise, Mims is a top 20 receiver in the NFL. No question.
David D says, spam Green Bean. Got it. Yes. That's your assignment. 8:00 tonight. I want you to go to Green Bean's channel.
Just attack Yeboah.
And just say, Yeboah is a jag. That's it. That's your only assignment. I want him to be confused and go, I don't, why is everyone attacking Kenny Yeboah?
Bates is better than Yeboah. You'll drive me crazy. You say, oh, we're so much better off with Bates.
Oh God. I love it. I really do. Mr. Bonesy's hanging with us. What's going on, Bonesy? Looks like Mike Williams is ready for week 1. He's talking to Alan, but looks like he's ready for week 1. How do you feel about being wrong again? You guaranteed pup. That's very funny. But I wanted to bring up I didn't keep reading after the looks like Mike Williams. And I said, that'll be fun. And I
love people that ask, how does it feel?
How does it feel? So I swear on my life, I didn't keep reading. I wanted to bring up on the show about Mike Williams coming back and what your expectations for him out of the gate are going to be.
I think Salah said it, and I believe it. I think you're going to see less reps than he will get week 8 than he's going to get week 1. I don't know how they're going to work. Obviously, we don't know the progression. We have to see it. But I think Lazard's had a good camp. And I think Xavier Gibson's had a great camp. So I think that we'll be okay with Mike Williams just coming in situationally. It sounds like he had a great practice today. They said he had 4 or 5. They did a green-white scrimmage, and apparently he had 4 to 5 receptions and over 100 yards, which is exciting to hear. I'm imagining that Aaron Rodgers was intentionally throwing to him. And I think a wide receiver of that size, forget about the speed, just the size is just a perfect complement to Wilson, and especially with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. So I think that even if we only see him for 10 reps, 12 reps against the Niners, we might see him make some plays and actually help us out a lot and get some value out of him. But I'm not terribly worried about it or concerned about it, because I think that we'll see his reps increase week after week. And we might even by Denver get to see him, full capacity.
I think my thought was early October, which, I mean, September 29th is the Denver game, a month from today. So that's entirely possible. But I'm thinking I don't know, 3 to 5 targets at the most for Mike Williams in this first game. And again, at the absolute most, they've used Lazard a ton in training camp. I think he's going to be playing on the outside. I think Garrett will play on the outside, and Gibson's going to be in the slot early on. This is something I'm calling it now, Jeremy. This is something that's going to bother Jet fans, but I just want to put this out there now and let us prepare for this, because it's going to happen. Malachi Corley's not going to see the field a lot early on in the year, and people are going to be screaming to get Malachi Corley on the field. But I know if you watch the training camp in the preseason, I'm warning you now. If you think he's going to come in and have 700 receiving yards his first year and be wide receiver 3, it's not happening. Second half of the year, he might come on strong, but the first month at least, there might be. I don't want to go this far, but he could even be inactive. I don't want to say maybe not that far. Awesome. Maybe not that far, but I just think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Malachi Corley expectations.
If Brownlee was still on the team, I think it would be more likely, but I still don't think it's impossible that he doesn't dress for the first couple of weeks. I don't expect that. I expect him to dress, but I'm just saying it wouldn't be shocking. I think that you're 100%. I think Xavier Gibson is ahead of him clearly on the depth chart, clearly ahead of him. And I think you're right. I think if I was them, and I think what you might see is if there's a game like New England, if we're up by 20 points on New England, you'll see Corley come into the game. What a perfect time to put him under the lights, right? and I'm not going to run the best plays because again, you're not going to put things on film for no reason, but let him get out there and let him run some routes. Let him, give him the ball, let him feel some contact. But as far as really using him, especially like that's assuming if we jumped up on a team by a lot. But if we're in tight games, close games, there's no way they're trusting him yet over Gibson.
Jeremy, we have some breaking news to report on the show. Are you excited for this?
Okay.
Frankie from Flatbush. Breaking big. New York NYJ Matt is now confirming that he will get Haason Reddick a McDouble to get him in the building, per source. Confirmed via Twitter. Zach says, I think us Jet fans got to get together and get Haason Reddick in the building. NYJ Matt, send him a sandwich. And then he says, he's waited too long. I'll get him a McDouble.
You use a McDouble to get Jets chaos into the building. You don't use a McDouble to get Haason Reddick into the building. Haason Reddick, wouldn't Matt stick to what he does best? Take some kind of classic sandwich that's done really well, like a sloppy Joe from New Jersey. The way they do their sloppy joes, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, the square sandwiches with the coleslaw and everything, and use something like that. But McDouble, that's what's going to get me in the building, not Reddick.
Yeah, Jeremy's going to the airport right now, actually.
I was like, McDoubles.
Yeah, please send it back. We're getting into the closing minutes here of the show, but there was another news story that came out today, and I kind of just want to poke the bear and rile you up one more time. But did you see the Athletic story about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets?
I have not yet.
Don't
tell me it was a follow-up to the one they put out before the offseason.
Jeremy, here you go. I'm going to read it to you, and I want your raw reaction. You ready? Okay. The Athletic spoke with 31 agents and reps around the league and surveyed their thoughts on NFL teams. Here's what they said on the Jets. There is complete disarray over there. Look at how they've handled Aaron Rodgers. Has one player had more power than him? They have been unable to convert him into a team player. The vibe inside the building is terrible.
I think that entire outlet should be shut down and boycotted. They are clearly holding a grudge. They hired this lady who did who knows what with the Washington owner in their box in their office. So we know what kind of character she has. This other guy that replaced Connor over there is just hanging on to her high heels, following her around like a sniff puppy dog, making stuff up about our team, holding a grudge against Aaron Rodgers. And it is the exact opposite of truth. And you could see it. Like you could literally sit there and watch. How many of you went to practices? If that was true, it would show on the field. You see nothing but love on that field during practices. Nothing but love. And it is such irresponsible reporting. They should really be boycotted because it's just garbage. And it's really using media as a weapon. They've weaponized it to go after someone that they don't like.
I love it. I love when you get passionate on a topic like this. I went to 2 practices this year, and from everything that I saw, the team loves Aaron Rodgers, and everything that we've said over the last 2 years, or everything that's been said from that building, is all positive around how everything was with Aaron Rodgers. To me, I pulled up Frankie's comment because I think it's accurate. The quote is from Tory Dandy, Reddick's agent. I was going to say this has got to be Reddick's agent or some other disgruntled guy that was on the way out and had to get their pot shots in on Rodgers and the Jets. But the bias that is held against the Jets because of how people feel about Aaron Rodgers is crazy to me. And I almost want the Jets to win, not just for my own fun, because I'm a Jets fan and I want to see them win. I also want to see them win because I want to see Rodgers on the parade float, giving the double bird with the Lombardi trophy.
And you know what? I never would have thought I would have agreed with something like that because I've wanted a championship so bad, but I agree with that. Like, there's room left in me to also want a Super Bowl just so Aaron Rodgers could tell them all to stick it where the sun don't shine.
Right, exactly. Which I would have never thought that. Like, suffering Jets fan. We've all been through it. Jets fans have been through it for a very, very long time. Some longer than me, some longer than Jeremy. And part of us are like, you know what? We want the Jets to win, not only for us to be happy, but for Aaron Rodgers to get a nice one last FU in his NFL career. Please sign me up. I would love that.
Absolutely.
We've gone full circle. It'd be a nice little FU to Allen too.
It would. It's funny because I wonder what he would be doing if the Jets won the Super Bowl and Joe Douglas is accepting the award, and where's Alon going to be and what's he going to be feeling and thinking?
Now, that's not to say that you can't be critical of your team. I think you have every right.
You absolutely can, and we talk about it all the time. It's okay to say I am not a fan of this player, but we all agree as soon as that player, like if Bates beats 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫𝐢 out for the job, Green Bean will be angry, but
Yes.
Green Bean will not root against Bates. He will not be happy if Bates messes up, and he will be nothing but thrilled if Bates makes a big reception because he's wearing the Jet uniform. The second the uniform goes on you, we're rooting for you to succeed, no matter what. And we're happy to say, I'm glad I was wrong. You know?
Alan says my rabbi's wife has a curse on Jeremy.
My rabbi wife has a curse on Jeremy. Rabbis don't do curses.
they got he sent in the evil eye, the Maloich.
They don't do curses. I'm not religious, but I know the Jewish religion well enough to know they don't believe in curses. They believe in what's those things? They believe in what the hell do we call it on Passover? You know, where you throw the little blood drops on the plates. Plagues.
Oh,
we agree. We agree. We believe in plagues.
Yeah. I love it. What a way to end the show. This has been a really fun one, Jeremy. I love coming on and talking with you every Thursday. Today was a big roster decision. But dude, this time next week, we'll be previewing a football game. We'll be talking storylines for Jets 49ers a week from today. How awesome does that make you feel?
It's amazing. And I have so much really good stuff coming ahead after a pretty tough year. And it's just so hard to be patient because I'm so excited for it. And I can't wait, and I look forward to this hour anyway, every week, because I love doing this with you. And to do it as a preview, unbelievable. And to know a couple of weeks after that, get to hang out with you and hang out with all the guys, see so many of the viewers and, pick on Hennessy and slap him around. I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
It's going to be an absolute blast. Remember, do like David. We are going to Green Bean's channel at 8 o'clock, and we are spamming the comments. 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫𝐢 is a Jag. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt. He's Jeremy. We'll talk to you next time.